Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the episode here at Catholic Table Talk Podcast. This is the podcast where everything Catholic is on the table. Thank you all for coming back and sitting back at the table with us for another great episode this week. And we're going to continue or get back on the track of talking about pro-life today with a guest who has been on the show before. So stay tuned. But before we get to that, if you're new to the show, or if you're not, please like, comment, subscribe to our podcast on all the platforms. If you don't know which platform we're on most podcast platforms. Just look down in the description box below and you'll see all of the links to all the different platforms we are on. For speaker, show requests, ordering merchandise, and feedback, and just great bunch of other stuff, please email us at catholictt@gmail.com. Again, it's catholictt@gmail.com. The official email of Catholic Table Talk and the fastest way to get a hold of us if you need to get a hold of us. And with that being said, let's take a look at today's sponsor. Again, it's Dr. Katrina Wynn. Dr. Katrina is a Catholic physician, author, speaker, and nonprofit founder. Learn more about how she can help you, your family, and your community out by visiting her website at mdkatrina.com. Thank you for Dr. Wynn for sponsoring today's episode. All right, now let's on to this week's show. I know we have guests around the world, but if you're from the United States of America here, you know that some states are very, very pro-life, which is a very great thing, especially if you're Catholic. It's a very bad sin if you are for abortion, which I know many Catholics are for abortion. That's really sad. And there's some states that are, like I said, really for abortion, like Minnesota, California, among others. So today we have a guest, like I said, she's been on the show before, episode 69, Pro-Life Work 1.0. And she's from almost the same town I'm from, pretty close, and she's a peer minister at Bison Catholic, which is the Newman Center for North Dakota State University. And she's very big, and I believe she's going to pro-life work after she graduates from NDSU, and we'll let her talk about that and much more. Let's welcome back to the show right now, Chloe Kramer. And Chloe, thank you again for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me on your show again.
Yeah, that's really, truly happy and honored to have you back. And like I said, I know, sure, a lot of listeners are happy to have you back as well. So let's just kind of get caught up on what you've been doing lately, because like I said, before show went so well, a lot of people liked having you on, liked your insights of where the pro-life movement is going, and just especially from a younger person, especially. So what have you been up to? And then just kind of talk briefly, because I know you're attending the March for Life in DC. So how was that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I just got back from the March for Life on the 22nd of January. And ever since then, it has been a whirlwind of different things going on because naturally we have a lot going on in our country and in our pro-life work at the moment. So since we talked last, we've been sort of doing an excess amount of events on our campus. We're trying to spread the message of life as best as we can. And so when I got back from the March for Life, we hosted Kristen Hawkins on our campus just 3 days after the March for Life wrapped up. So she came, we had almost 400 students in attendance for that event. And then we spent the month of February dedicated to supporting women and standing with them. So we did an entire supportive services themed month. We wrote letters to pregnant women. So we've been really busy, but it's been really good. I like the idea of spreading awareness of life. And that's really just what we've been up to since the March for Life, since I talked last with all of you. All of that good stuff.
Gotcha. Well, that's a good thing that you're staying busy, because we kind of need to be busy in the pro-life movement to continue bringing awareness to it. That is for sure. So I know we kind of talked beforehand, which direction we want to go with in this episode. And again, if you want with going down one street. If you're going on another one, you're welcome to do that. But for more like a public policy, for abortion, as we kind of dive into this material, um, like I mentioned, like Minnesota, California are very radical abortion states. So like people are moving out to California, moving out of Minnesota because they don't want to be around people who like abortion. Just they can't really do much about abortion. They feel like they can't. So like how can people in abortion states like Minnesota, California, etc., defend life where life doesn't really mean anything as torn as a public policy says?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It really sad to me that we in our country right now see life as valuable contingent on state lines. We
Right.
see it as if you're in Minnesota, you're not worthy of protection. If you're in North Dakota, all of a sudden you are worthy of being protected by law. And that's why the pro-life movement wants to make abortion both illegal and unthinkable. That's why it's a culture thing, but it's also a legal thing because we need to be on our state level public policy to actually abolish abortion. We need to be working in states like Minnesota and California and those really radical ones. And these lawmakers don't tend to take the stance that life is valuable and worth protecting because they're often radical. They're often radically pro abortion. They don't really want to make a scene in their state, so they don't want to pass radical pro life legislation. They don't want to do that because that puts them in the spotlight for people to be angry at them. But when lawmakers don't see life as worth protecting, that's our invitation as pro-lifers and as Catholics to enter into that state and fight even harder in those states. They're not lost causes. They're not something we have to give up on. And we know that when we contact legislators, when we rally, when we show up, it makes a difference because we are that voice that shows legislators that young people care and that we're not going to give up until change happens in those states.
Right. No, totally agree. And I mean, like when you show up to protest or go against abortion, I always like it when they always show the other group for abortion. There's not as many. And yeah, it's really a great movement to bring awareness. And I just had a question pop up. Maybe you don't really know too much about this or not, but I'm just wondering how does like we said, North Dakota protects life, South Dakota really protects life. Um, is there a just quick question? If you don't know, that's totally okay. But where does North Dakota compare to South Dakota? Because we hear South Dakota has all these great pro-life laws. Is North Dakota pretty much the same thing, or do they have like lesser laws that you're trying to you know um what increase on not increase the yeah I think
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, that question makes total sense to me because I spent a year doing a lot with public policy for North Dakota. So I spent a lot of time knowing and understanding what the state that I now live in for college, like what law actually means for life in North Dakota compared to states like Minnesota and South Dakota, because the states that are your neighbors are the states where it matters most to pay attention to. Because if North Dakota, for example, is not offering abortions, then people are going to go to Minnesota or they're going to research the policy in South Dakota. And because it's our closest neighbor. And South Dakota, for example, is one of those states that has completely banned abortion, pretty much. We have a very pro-life governor down there, Kristi Noem. She's incredible and she has some really great pro-life legislation. North Dakota is a little less pro-life than South Dakota, but we're still doing really well. We had a trigger law to effectively ban all abortions the moment Roe was overturned. That law got challenged because people were questioning its policies about life of the mother. So it didn't go into effect necessarily right away, but it did mean that abortion facilities like Red River Women's Clinic in Fargo had to close their doors and either go to another state or be done performing abortions in North Dakota.
Gotcha. Yep, that's great news. Yeah, so I thank you for that because I mean, I don't keep up with everything. I should. I mean, I should, but I don't. So yeah, thank you for that clarification on North Dakota law. Um, so when you when I asked for you to come back on the show and you said yes, you'll be happy to. It's in a good time. If we're gonna let when at least when this show comes out, if you'll listen more in the future, it may not be Lent, it may be ordinary time, maybe Advent, Easter, etc. Um, but what are ways during like this on this great season of Lent or even other seasons of really defending life? Like, we gotta pray, fast, give alms during Lent. But what are some ways that maybe we can mix those in with defending life?
Yeah, prayer, fasting, giving alms are all great ways that Catholics are called to enter into the Lenten season to be more of a self-sacrifice during that time because we're preparing for Jesus's resurrection, but we know that this season is about sacrifice. It's about suffering with Jesus. We know that this is a season of great trial, and it represents suffering and how we can have redemption through that. So yeah, Lent is about sacrifices, and in my opinion, one of the greatest sacrifices we can make is defending life. I mean, it's highlighted all throughout scripture. It says that we aren't meant to follow the world. We are in the world, but we aren't of it. And I fully believe that pro-abortion culture is worldly. It chooses convenience over life. It chooses death over life. It is a culture that is so worldly. So being anti-abortion in our culture, it is an example of sacrifice. So defending life during Lent can include ways to die to ourselves. So for me, an example of this is prayer and fasting. You can pray for life. You can pray a rosary for the unborn. You can show up at your local abortion clinic and pray. You can lift up life through your daily habits by being intentional with your faith, prioritizing chastity and repentance, being bold. These are all things that we can do all the time. And I think Catholics misunderstand the power of their witness and how important it is, especially during the Lent season. So my advice to anyone listening during Lent, be bold. Jesus is with you. There's not one thing that you can endure by being outwardly pro-life that Jesus didn't endure first. So he is with you. He's been through it. He was nailed to the cross for his beliefs, and we're called to carry that cross too, but we aren't alone.
That's right. We're not alone for sure. And yeah, I mean, I love what you said. I mean, pray the rosary for the unborn. Go to abortion clinics. I mean, you have the freedom to do that. They don't really like that. Everyone in the abortion clinics, but you do have a right to do that. Pray the rosary outside. Peace. And yeah, I've seen the Divine Mercy Chapel as well. But yeah, great insights of what people should be doing, because people should be doing that stuff anyway, and you should, yeah, add a little, just add a little more, I say, pepper or something in, and pray for the unborn, because this is a very crucial time we're in. And during that, as we kind of make to the next question, I know you want to talk about kind of the use of the chemical abortion pills. So like during that, we have, all this stuff that we give up. A lot of people give up watching TV, watching the news, because it's so stressful. They don't like it. So kind of, I guess my question would be then just kind of get everyone caught up on the abortion pill from like Walgreens. I know that they did say that they would sell it. But now I've seen it like kind of cut back on that a little bit. So just in case if everyone hasn't really watched TV since Christmas time, just kind of get everyone caught up on the chemical abortion pill.
Yeah. Yeah. If anyone listening doesn't know what the chemical abortion pill is, it is a two-step regimen that is meant to take the life of your unborn child through a medication called RU-486. It's mifepristone and misoprostol. And the first pill is meant to starve your baby, and the second pill is meant to cause contractions so that that woman has to give birth to her dead baby on her own. So as you can imagine, this is a very traumatic and painful and often dangerous situation for women to be in, especially because they go through it alone more often than not. They're in their dorms, in their houses. They're not in a hospital. They're completely alone when they're going through this regimen. But recently, the FDA has pushed for these abortion pills to be available over the counter. And what's so dangerous about this is that, first of all, women don't often know how far along they are when they're taking these pills. You're only supposed to take them up until 10 to 12 weeks. So women don't often know how far along they are. They're not seeing a doctor for a checkup. And abusers can oftentimes purchase these pills too, because there's no regulation for who can purchase them. So this is enabling abuse of young girls too. So now that the abortion pills are being pushed to be available over the counter, that makes all of our local pharmacies effectively into an abortion facility, because now if these are all like dispersing this abortion pill at places like CVS, Walgreens, and Rite Aid, then the pharmacy that is right down the street from you is participating in abortion actively. It makes it into an abortion facility. So now that this is being pushed forward, this makes our battle into a much more difficult one. It makes it so that there are 30,000 abortion facilities instead of, the ones that were there before that did surgical and all different types. But my encouragement to your listeners too is that there's pressure on these abortion, or I should say pharmacies, but yeah, they are abortion facilities now. There's pressure on these corporations to not disperse the pill, because we as pro-lifers are showing up and saying that we are not okay with this. We aren't going to give our money to these facilities and these corporations that are doing this and harming women in the process. And when we show up, it really does put that pressure on them to not disperse it. And our voice does make a difference in that way. So now Walgreens will not disperse the pill in states where abortion is illegal due to the public policy following Roe v. Wade. And that's a huge win, but they're still going to disperse it in those states where abortion is legal. So that's the battle we're up against, but our voices do matter. And when we show that we aren't going to support this, it does, like I said, put that pressure on for them not to participate in it.
Right. No, agreed. And yeah, when you said that FDA passes and women don't really know how far along they when they take it and everything. I know we talked about that in the first episode. It's just more in detail about what happens in abortion. So or I would have all the listeners go back to that one. So just another kind of quick pop-up question. I mean, like you said, this one is how many abortion clinics in the U.S. There are thousands of abortion clinics, because basically here's a pill to do the job instead of going to the clinic. Which is great that Walgreens is they push back against that in the pro-life states. But like, let's just say, if you're in a pro-life state and you're border state, like you live in Minnesota, I'm assuming North Dakota, and the neighboring state is abortion state. How do you, and I mean, and Walgreens is not selling in North Dakota, but they are selling in Minnesota, like 10 miles apart. What can you do to try to not have Walgreens sell the abortion pill in Minnesota? Is that kind of goes back to the public policy thing?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to public policy, and it goes back to fighting against the deadly abortion cartels that are essentially happening across our country. It goes back to fighting on our state levels. Everything goes back to policy. That's what's allowed the FDA to make that ruling in the first place. But in general, if you're in a state like North Dakota that is not dispersing the abortion pill, for example, I mean, like, what we can do, honestly, as consumers, is not support Walgreens at all.
Right.
There are more options. Just like, don't even give your money to them. It's definitely not worth it. We're sending that message that what they're doing is dangerous and we don't support it. And even if that facility right there is not distributing abortion pills, you're still hurting the billion-dollar corporation that is allowing it in other states too. So there's always something we can do, whether we realize it or not.
Right. I think, yeah, good point in this. I think, like you said, a lot of Catholics forget that. and just other pro-life Christians, we get that as well. So I guess wrapping up today's show, Chloe, just final last remarks on what we have talked about today. Anything else you want to get out? And then, I mean, like I said, last episode you were on, do not know about Bison Catholic. You guys do great things up there at NDSU. So if you want to just make last remarks and then just kind of talk about what Bison Catholic has planned, especially I know we're still in the spring when this comes out, but maybe planning on for next fall. So if a couple of students are wondering where they should go and what college has a good Catholic network, just kind of talk about that.
Yeah, if any young college age students are listening and are considering going to college, I would highly recommend NDSU because before going to Bison Catholic, I was one of those people where my faith wasn't my own. I came to Bison Catholic and I was able to step into leadership, make it my own, and find a community. And that's what's so special about it. The community is so prevalent, and the community loves Jesus so much. And they really push you to go enter into the sacraments, to be just a more whole Catholic, to be well-rounded and to still be Catholic while you're studying and in school, which is one of the biggest battles in our nation. The epidemic of young Catholics going to college and then turning away from their faith. So first of all, I would recommend coming to NDSU. If you come by the fall, I'll still be here until December, so we can hang out. But yeah, Bison Catholic has some amazing plans, especially because our chapel is almost finished construction. It should be ready early fall. So we have our new chapel, our new building. We're conducting more Bible studies than ever. We're having more events than ever. And even just having almost 400 students at the Kristen Hawkins event is really an indication of how many young Catholics really still do care about their faith. And that's what Bison Catholic really means to me. I think it shows that there are people who don't just want to grow in their faith, they want to change the community towards one that has a culture of still loving Jesus and loving life and being all in for the things that matter.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, totally agree. I mean, just think about the Asburg University revival that just happened. Yeah, it's there's a lot of movement going on in the country. You know, we're in difficult times, hard times. If you're a Christian, if you're Catholic, but there is a strong movement for being focusing on making sure that you're keeping up your practice of Catholicism and just being a Christian in general. So yeah, definitely agree with that. Chloe, thank you again for coming on the show and just for what you do up at just being pro-life helpful, leader, I should say, and everything that you do up at Bison Catholic, and really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so great.
All right, everyone. Chloe Kramer, like I said, find her at Bison Catholic. So a great Catholic program they have up at NDSU. So go check it out if you or maybe a student that you know is concerned about going up there. Again, Chloe's other episode is episode 69 for more info on abortion. That will do it for this week, though. However, everyone, we're out of time, but God willing, we'll see you next time here at Catholic Talk Podcast. Go to the sacraments, keep on staying grace, and keep on praying for everything Catholic, especially for life everywhere in the U.S. and throughout the world. See you next week at Catholic Talk Podcast, where everything Catholic is on the table.